Well, Saturday morning. Yesterday was the Ghostbusters Fan Fest showing at the Globe Theatre in downtown Los Angeles, and it was an absolutely fantastic evening. As you walked in, everything was decorated up, some pretty cool lighting, good music being played, and then of course we got welcomed to the event by Mr. Ghostbusters himself, Dan Aykroyd, and he was, as usual, funny self. He welcomed on stage William Atherton, who played Walter Peck, Ernie Hudson, who of course played Winston Zeddemore, and then he introduced director of the film, Ivan Reitman, who in turn welcomed onto the stage his son and the director, Jason Reitman, who confirmed that shooting begins of the new movie in 5 weeks' time. So that got, as you can imagine, a huge cheer. So they showed us some exclusive extras that are going to be coming out on the new Steelbook Ultra HD Blu-ray. And then we watched the film, and it was a wonderful atmosphere in there. It was really, really good fun. So today is day 2 of the Ghostbusters Fan Fest. I'm going to be heading up now to the Sony Pictures lot, and I'm going to be meeting the cast and crew. So I'm just a little bit excited this morning. So this is where they're doing the presentations today. I'm privileged to be doing it here in this particular theatre. And this is where they do all the sound mixing for the movies. And they've just been working on Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man film, in here. Wow.
A high standard, and to find the best quality evidence.
Thank you. Wow, fun day, huh? Yeah! So nice to see the next generation. Kids and grandkids. It's going to be exciting, really exciting. And loved I've got about 500 patches now from all over the world. And all the kits and equipment look really good today. Really, I'm proud of y'all. Thank you so much.
In front of Dan. So we were saying in the previous panel, this is the day, the 35th anniversary of Ghostbusters. Ivan already shared some memories from the debut of that film. What do you guys remember from the opening, from actually getting people to see the film? After you made it, like the opening weekend, what do you recall from that time?
Recall driving around and seeing lines around the theater and looking and saying, well, that's screening number 1. We'll see if they're still there after number 2 or 3. And I think all of us did cruise wherever we were and went to where the movie was playing. I was in LA at the time.
I told them earlier how confident and cocky we all were, and while we were making the film, and that we had a real strong sense of where this was going to go. But we still showed up on Friday night to make sure that there's somebody actually there.
Yeah. Well, you never know in the picture business, but we felt we had something here that was, that was unique and that would work. Everybody who read it from the very beginning, even my sort of inaccessible first script, which had a lot of the movie in it, but there were things there that we couldn't use and threw out, but everybody understood the concept, what we're going after, and yeah, we're all here today because of it.
Ernie, how about you? What do you remember about the debut? People's reaction to Winston.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working. I did a movie called Space Hunter with actually I haven't produced the year before. And I remember it was nice. The movie didn't really do business, but there was some magic about this movie from the time I read the script and got the part. We were in New York, rehearsing, shooting in New York. Some of the shit was a build-up, but you weren't sure what it was. And then when it opened, it was like it was electricity. I mean, the song kicked off, and suddenly it was everywhere, including my apartment, which I had on Pico Boulevard in West LA, and fans would show up and knock on the door. It was crazy, but it was just suddenly it was like a breakthrough, and it was just a different time. It was very exciting, very exciting.
William, were you prepared for the world to fall in love with Walter Peck?
I was greatly surprised and gratified. I think asking about remembering when it opened, it was making it, I have to tell you, it was such a joy. Because, I was a New York actor at the time, and my vanity was on stage and Broadway and things like that. And I did movies that did very well critically, but didn't make a lot of money. And I felt, pretty much the artiste. But when I began working on this movie, there was an electricity and a fellow feeling that was absolutely unique. And it created its own art. And being on that set was such a joy. And seeing the movie for the first time, I went, yes, that's what I remember. That's what I remember making this movie. And that, I tell you, for an actor, that the bus only hits you once with that. And the bus really hit me hard with that. So if everybody fell in love with Walter, I kind of fell in love with Walter. I mean, I kind of felt, he's the guy with the inhaler and the 7th grade in the playground, and he finally got something. He wasn't going to give it up. That's kind of how I felt about it.
I think he's one of the great antagonists. I mean, he's sort of apart from Gozer, the villain of the story. But in a way, he's right. You've got these yahoos running around, nuclear accelerator in their backs. He's from the EPA. He's there to protect us and give us clean air.
Well,
can you bring it back for Walter?
Yeah, but I mean, with Ivan, giving the platform. It's the director's medium and the writer's medium, and there was the platform to create that, and that doesn't happen that often. That's unique, and so you don't do it by yourself. You do it because somebody gives you a seat on the bus, and that essentially was it.
Today, of course, with the present administration, Walter Peck would go, it's all been deregulated. You guys are right on whatever you want. You tax success pool in the basement, no problem. It's commerce.
I hope with all of Walter's great virtues that feeling everything that's going on now, he wouldn't particularly care for it, but maybe I'm hoping for the best for it.
I feel like if Venkman hadn't been rude to him with that magic word scene, they could have just shown him what they had. Okay, these guys seem to know what's going on. It might have, but it was that clash that set it off.
You didn't say the magic word.
When you act a scene with Murray, you're kind of, as an actor, your method involvement is terrible. Because you want to make sure you're trying to get through that and see what is going to happen next. So I was very grateful for Bill.
Was that a scripted moment, the magic word thing, or did he make that up?
I don't know.
I can't remember. I think it was in the script that the magic word was, yes.
Dan, can you talk to me about, you went through various versions of the script, and then I was telling us in the previous panel about Harold joining on and the crafting of the final version. How did the casting of actors lead to the tailoring of each individual character, even choosing which part you wanted to play? Did you feel that Ray's stance evolved once you knew you were going to be the guy that happened?
We needed that great comic leading man, and of course, just knowing that Billy was going to do that character, you're going to shape a certain voice, knowing that you've got him to use. And Harold and I were really kind of more utility players, just in terms of delivering exposition and that. Our performances are earnest, and
Totally disagree with everything he said.
Harold's voice and skepticism came out, and then we hired a great actor to play Ernie, the everyman who comes into it, with a little just a sense of bewilderment, he played so beautifully, and then became a founding member of our group. So sure, whatever actor we hired would shape the part, and of course Louis Tully, the Moranis part. Once he gave voice to that, boy, we knew we were off to some a stream of comic gold there.
Yes. I think Ivan wants to disagree and weigh in on what you just said.
When we started thinking about the three characters, because it started as three, and we always thought, okay, well, Spengler's the brains. He's the brains. And
Harold was the brains.
And Danny's so heart, he's got such a great big heart all the time, both as Dan Aykroyd and as Ray Stantz in this movie, so he was the heart. And of course, Venkman was the mouth. He was the guy who always had the fast quip. And really, we use that kind of thinking as a way of building the thing.
And Winston's the backbone, right? He's the tough one. We were just talking the other day about the strength that he brings to these guys who are sort of pinwheeling around and blasting up hotels. How did you feel you helped shape the character who was on that page?
I don't know if there's a steady paycheck in it. It was just it was a wonderful character, and thanks to Ivan and Danny. I don't know. It was sort of a different place to be. So it was a learning experience. There was a lot going on, and you look back on it, you kind of go, oh, to me, sitting in the theater and watching it for the first time, seeing the scene with Bill Murray and the girl and the flashcards, and I go seeing the librarian, seeing this man say, "Can I please see the?" Suddenly you realize this is what we've been doing, and this is what I was, because you're kind of all sort of making sense, and you're in the middle of something, but what it is, it wasn't clear until I think the first time I said it.
Rick Moranis was not in the movie originally. In fact, I was thinking of getting John Candy as the neighbor down the hall from Dana Barrett. I just worked with John in his first movie, Stripes, along with the other guys, and I sent Candy our first script. I don't remember his name. Candy calls me up and he says, I don't get this, but maybe if I could play him with a German accent. And
Dogs.
and
Yeah,
I'd like a couple of big German shepherds. I said, you can't have German shepherds. There's these dogs on the roof. It's gonna be confusing to everybody. And he finally passed. And I knew Rick Moranis from Second City in Canada, and I knew him just as a friend in Canada. And I called him up and I said, look, will you please read this? I have sent it to John Candy, who has now decided not to do it because I just worked with him. But I'm a big fan of yours, Rick. Please take a look. He called me, 30 minutes after he got the script, and he said, John Candy's crazy. This is great. I want to do this. And he really invented it. I told him we didn't really have a character. We knew he was going to be an annoying neighbor. That's sort of the idea that we had. And he just started building this character for himself, line by line, costume by costume, and it just did a spectacular job.
The way he moved, his whole body language, it's one of the great performances. Yeah, just beautiful. Wore his heart on his sleeve. He just loved Louis Tully, yeah.
William, what do you feel you were able to bring to Peck, and what qualities were you most proud of layering into him?
Well, I think what I said was that he's one of those people, he had little and he got to some kind of place where he could wear something like a suit and had some kind of power. And it's one of those times when you haven't had anything, you finally get something and you're not going to give it up. And that's what it was. Also, there was another interesting thing when Theoni Aldrich, who did the costumes, and we were talking, and I was trying to visually think how to embody that. And we made a couple of decisions. And the decision that she first suggested, which I realized was really genius from her, was that we keep me looking the same. I never change my suit. I wear the same thing. We make a little Phi Beta Kappa pin that he wears all the time because that is signature thing and his signature accomplishment in life so far. And maybe change the tie, but just a little bit because you don't want to get too crazy. And just a little here, a little there, and then you show your power. And if your power is contested, it's obviously unethical and wrong and deeply insulting. And that's how the path of life is for him. And I didn't find that hard. Also, it's a collaborative thing. I could come up with all these ideas, but in the scenes that we had with how Ivan orchestrated all of it, and we all were, everybody else was so cool. It was New York, and we all kind of semi-knew each other and what we were doing and everything, and it gave a wonderful platform to you had the other characters show you who you were. And that's, when you have really great actors like Murray and Dan and Ernie, and they, how they react to you shows partly who you are, and you respond to that. So it was a real kind of learning experience, and it just went strata by strata by strata. That's how I remember.
Ernie, you and I, we just spoke earlier, and you told me some really moving and powerful stories about the reaction you've gotten to Winston over the years from African American viewers, kids. You ran into an actor in a bank, and I thought that was a pretty great story. Can I get you to tell about those experiences and encounters and how Winston became a point of pride?
You get the job, you do the work, you envision it a certain way. You don't think of, if I say this line, people will remember this line. You're not thinking about. It amazes me. 35 years later, you guys come up with lines. This job is now worth $11.5 a year. I never thought anybody would even hear that. You can still remember the line. So, but I have run into over the years a lot of people of color, not just African Americans, but who say they're very, very happy that Winston was in the movie, and was right after the movie came. I worked a television show called St. Elsewhere in Denzel, Washington. I did 8 episodes. Denzel was my doctor on the show, and I saw him in the beginning. I saw Ghostbusters, and I really liked it a lot. I love that character. Thanks for not embarrassing me. And as an African American, I knew exactly what he meant, and it's kind of hard to sometimes explain to people outside of the community because so many shows you just feel the characters compromise in a way, and you feel it reflects on you. So I think Winston, and even today at this event, a couple of people have come up and said how special it was to have Winston representing him in the film.
You know, from day one, I wanted Belushi and Eddie Murphy in the movie, so I was writing the parts for both of them when John died. I was writing John's line, a scene between myself, a character, and we didn't know who the other one was going to be, but then, of course, after John died, it all got stalled and that. I always wanted Eddie in the movie. I thought he'd make a great Ghostbuster.
Thanks, Danny.
I'm glad it worked out the way it did. I love that.
Yeah, well, we could add Eddie too, and you and all, you know, hey, you know, he would have enhanced it in a way, but no, it worked out better this way, much better.
He's got the heart. He's got the tools. He's got the talent. There are a couple other actors who aren't here. Well, one is gone, Harold Ramis, and I wondered if you guys could talk about your memories of him or your favorite stories of working with Harold on this movie.
Well, Harold was the great doctor. You know, smart guy, a wonderful man, and I met him along with Belushi and Bill Murray back in when I did I was fortunate when I started working with the National Lampoon magazine to do an off-Broadway theatrical show where they were all working together, and that's where I met Harold for the first time. And I always felt I had this great secret because Harold was the one who didn't get hired by Saturday Night Live. And when I talked to the National Lampoon magazine about doing a movie, they said, well, look, if you ever do a movie that's based on the script that we have here in this sort of running stage show, then maybe you'll get to produce it and perhaps even to direct it. And so most of the cast, Gilda Radner, Belushi, Bill and Harold, everyone got picked up except Harold. And so I said, Harold, let's go write a script that's based on our show, because that way I get to do it as a movie, perhaps, if we could ever get it made. He started writing, and that movie actually became Animal House. And it was really the beginning of my career and his career. And the secret that I knew was that Harold was as strong as Bill Murray was, and John Belushi was, as Gil was on that stage, because he performed with them every single night, and he stood really strong. He just didn't have to get on Saturday Night Live. And so when I got to do Stripes, I immediately thought, well, Harold should co-partner with Bill Murray, that they would be great together because I had seen them together. There was this sort of secret knowledge that I had. And it was a great pleasure to sort of work with him. And we ended up working together about 5 or 6 times in our lives, and really always thought of him as this brother of mine, and it's really a terrible sadness to have lost him when we did.
Dan, how about you? Any thoughts, memories of working on Ghostbusters
as a collaborator? It was wonderful to write with him because he was so knowledgeable. Although he wasn't a believer in the supernatural, he knew all about the research that was being done around the world, and all the paranormal departments and universities, and the work of the Maimonides Dream Lab and Dr. Roll and the ASPR. He knew all that stuff that my great-grandfather had turned on to me through my dad and my grandfather, and he knew all those references. And then, of course, he knew what we were trying to do, to marry all of that real vernacular and all of the real science to the ghost movies of the 30s. Abbott and Costello, Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, the Bowery Boys, they all did ghost movies. And so he knew exactly what we were trying to connect with here. And he was just a great writing partner. And wonderful to work with as an actor. And just one of the funniest, most intelligent, kind of non-hysterical people I've ever met.
Ernie, any thoughts on Harold?
Yeah, you know, I've been working as an actor for, what we did, 84, it was in 84, right? 83 when we started. So maybe about 15 years I'd been an actor, but I'd really started working in film and TV a couple of years before. So this was kind of, it was different. And these guys, I love them dearly, but you know, there's a little bit of insanity involved in the arts. You know, a lot of things going on, and it's moving really fast, and I'm trying to sort of keep up and make sense. Harold was always, for me, the go-to guy. Harold, he would always take the time, we always talk about it, and he would look at me when I was kind of going, what the hell? And then Harold would go, Ernie. And then it's like, I knew it was okay. I learned a lot from just the way he conducted himself and he carried himself. And it helped me to sort of remember to always keep my balance. He always seemed to be balanced, and I appreciate that about him. And I've always felt very close to him, I think because of it, because I learned a lot from him.
It was a wonderful thing to see him smile, to make him laugh. That was a big reward.
William, how about you? What are your thoughts on?
Well, I didn't know him before. I didn't have a great deal to do with him making it, but every single time I had anything to do with him meant something, and I found him a man of extraordinary goodness and great taste. He had an innate, deep taste about what was good, what was appropriate, and he was calm, but he always felt that whatever insanity was going around, he was marshaling in his head in a way that was going to make everything good. That's how I felt. You could trust his criticism, and that is a great thing.
Ivan, can you tell us about casting Annie Potts as Janine? She brought that great voice, not her natural voice, but she made it as Long Island, tough working girl. Like, what did she bring to the character?
Just a wonderful actress, and with great ranges. You could see from the wonderful things she's done on television and other films. She was just great fun to work with. She was just a real person, you know, in this sort of insanity. And I thought she didn't have to say much in this film. We didn't write a lot of stuff for her. She has more to do in the second movie, but she was immediately likable and made sense as a New Yorker because of the character and the voice that she created for herself. And we added the red hair, which is really not a redhead. And she made this sort of indelible impression.
She's over it. I love that scene, your first scene in the movie, Ernie, where she couldn't care less about the Loch Ness Monster or an ESP. She couldn't care less about that either. I've never seen such a dramatic scene between two people who don't care about what they're talking about. Any memories of shooting that scene?
Yeah, no, I think that was the first scene that I shot was that scene, and then we went to the containment unit with Danny and the big Twinkie, and it was just very, and she was wonderful. I mean, I consider her a good friend. I mean, obviously, you know, I don't see her very often, but I just really appreciate her. She's wonderful.
We actually have a video from her, a message to you guys. So even though she couldn't be here from afar, she's going to be on the screen. So I guess we'll cue that up and roll it.
Hi everybody, it's Annie Potts. Thank you for coming to share our 35th anniversary of Ghostbusters with all of us. I'm sorry I can't be there, but I'm on a press junket elsewhere. And I wish I could be there. Thank you all for 35 years of devotion to maybe the funniest film of all time. Thank you.
I think we're ready to open it up until we select them. You want me to call on them?
Raise their hand. I got a microphone. They can ask the question right over here. Hey, everybody.
All right. Who's
Came
got a
over
good
here with a question right here. Quick, run, quick. There you go. Your question.
I can't keep it. Hi. Since Harold will be absent in the 2020, do you have any in-universe ways to explain that?
Ooh.
And is that part of the plan?
Well, Jason's not here, but Ivan, do you want to field that?
No.
He's always here.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, okay.
What was your favorite moment during filming the first movie? For all of them, I guess.
Oh,
For all of you.
Well, I had an apartment above Columbus Circle around on the 60th floor, and the night we walked Mr. Stay Puft down Broadway, I was up there watching the extras respond to Ivan's direction, and it was as if Godzilla had entered Manhattan. The way they were reacting, they did a beautiful job of reacting and fleeing down through Columbus Circle. Real people, real extras, real police cars, real stunt players, and I got to watch that from a bird's eye view. And when I saw that, I said, "Yeah, $1 million make believe for sure."
What are your favorite moments?
I don't know. There was so many. Just shooting in New York, shooting on the street, seeing how the fans sort of came out and just reacted. Yeah, it was great. I probably working with Danny in that car scene, talking about the end of the world. Which
I
is
love working with you anytime, sir. Anytime.
Driving the car across crosstown traffic, and the car kind of broke down. But it was magic, and it was a lot of. It's hard to pick out.
And stealing shots all over Manhattan, stealing shots in the car and on Broadway and Fifth Avenue. Yes, Maddie.
What was the hardest scene to shoot while filming the movies?
Hardest scene to shoot?
The stuff on stage, Ivan, like the temple, the wind effects, the lights, and that was kind of grueling.
It was really the first time I was doing visual effects. And we built the set. The production designer was John DeCure Sr. He was about 85 or 86 when we did the film. He's one of the most brilliant production designers in the history of Hollywood. He was nominated at least 18 times for Academy Awards. And he created this remarkable set. He's the one who really thought of the doors and that remarkable rooftop that's on that building, and helped sort of us figure out how the hell we were going to do whatever it was that we had in our script. And you're talking about what my favorite scene was. That was the hardest, doing everything on the roof. My favorite was on my way to work one day, because I was in a hotel just across the park, and I remember the doorman coming up to me and saying, "You're shooting in that building on Central Park West?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, there's this terrible earthquake there. The ground had come up because the crew had built this thing, and everybody thought it was real, that there was some kind of opening in the ground that screwed up a car." And I said, "Oh, God, this is good. Okay."
Willie, what was your favorite scene?
Well, real quick, just two things, kind of mirroring what Dan was saying. When on Central Park West, for those 3 nights when they were shooting, I think some of the biggest stuff. Excuse me. This was all pre-CGI. All of those lights, everything was so beautiful. It was so extraordinarily, almost cataclysmically beautiful. It was one of the most moving things that I've ever seen, And I've never had an emotion quite like that watching anything I've been in or watching a production go. It was truly remarkable. And what Ivan was saying about the design, the art in Ghostbusters it's incomparable. It's just gorgeous. And just to see that was amazing. The other thing was the mayor's office scene for me, with Bill and David Margulies, who was terrific, and that was really kind of fun magic time. That's it for me.
My question is for Will. I understand that you, from the commentaries and things, that they really dropped that shaving cream on you. How did that feel?
It felt like shaving cream. It felt like shaving cream.
A really big, heavy load of shaving cream?
Well, no.
Warm,
I
cold?
think they put somebody. I said, I got a little worried because they said, well, we're going to drop the shaving cream, and I asked how much did it weigh, and they said 150 pounds. And I said, oh, okay. But like 100. I remember in Earth Science, 150 pounds of feathers and 150 pounds of lead is still 150 pounds. So I got a little worried, and so they went, oh, Jesus, what do we got to do with this guy? So they put some poor guy in there, I don't know who did it, second AD or something, and they let it go, and it kind of knocked him flat. So they put a little less for me ultimately.
Walter Beck was right again.
Close shave. Here's a question.
I know in the courtroom scene in the second movie, Bill talked about putting on the proton packs. Were those things really that heavy in both movies and the slime blowers? Because I know you guys wore the slime blowers. Were they really all that heavy?
The packs that everybody have manufactured and you're all wearing today, they're about the weight of what we were wearing. They were heavy. They were 150 pounds. They were heavy metal. There were some rubber ones that Billy preferred to use. So I always put the pack on. I didn't use the rubber one because I don't trust myself as an actor to show that weight. I could have faked it and put a rubber one on and pretended it was 150 pounds. No method. I'm going to put that thing on there, and it's going to be the real pack. But no, they were really, really heavy. But Billy did use the rubber one, which looked the same.
Gentlemen, I just want you guys to know the strength of your movie. I was 8 when it came out. I had a tremendous fear of death, like beyond uncontrollable. When this movie came out, it gave me all the courage to, face my fears, and I still use that on my little ones in my family, and it works. So I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you very much, and that's why I enjoyed the girls' film, because it also gave those little girls a chance to fight their demons, so thank you guys.
We love making Ghostbusters, we do.
The idea of laughing in the face of death? Yeah. Let's take another couple questions, maybe.
I got that.
You got the mic?
How about a Ghostbuster here?
So what's so fascinating about the movie, and this is for the director and the writers, is that you managed to start it so grounded with just a couple of guys, 3 guys that got fired from their jobs to try to start a business. By the end of the movie, you've got a giant marshmallow man walking down the street. Can you just talk about the process of getting us there? And we were all there for the ride, and we went there. So just talk about the process of developing that.
Well, I think Harold, I think he was suggested that we set it in a university. I think it was you and Harold really I thought that's where we should start.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to pitch this story in a real way and bring all the brilliance of Danny's imagination into a kind of a realistic setting. I always thought it would be much more powerful in a contemporary New York that we understand. So a large terror dog in a condominium or an apartment in New York is much more interesting than seeing it run around in some fantasy scape where everything is sort of made up. And that was really the heart of it. My greatest fear was the Marshmallow Man. The Marshmallow Man was in Danny's original treatment,
but not at the end. It was kind of in the halfway. Yeah.
As one of many, many extraordinary creatures, but it was even in that script with so many other things, it stuck out as a kind of a really wonderful but kind of goofy idea. And it was the thing that I was the most worried about. I thought, we get away with everything. I'm not sure if we're going to get away with the Marshmallow Man. And Sheldon Kahn, who's here somewhere, I think, who edited this movie and edited brilliantly, managed to put the movie, we shot from around middle of September till the middle of January of 1984, and February the 17th, I think, we had a screening on the Burbank lot of the movie, his very first cut, and it had very few special effects, but fortunately we were doing much of what we did live. So, in Dana's apartment, the eggs are really cooking for real. And but when the guys were shooting their proton packs, of course, we were going like this, pretending things were coming out of it, but nothing was coming out of it. We had one shot with the Marshmallow Man. It was the very first close-up of the rubberhead way back in the distance in Soho somewhere, walking against the skyline of Manhattan. And watching the movie is playing extraordinarily well. It was probably played as well that very first screening as I had ever seen it. And I kept going, oh God, please, I hope this Marshmallow Man thing is going to work. And I knew I had that one shot to sort of help explain it. And as soon as that head bobbed around in that wonderful way that it does, the laughs, the screaming, and I said, oh, thank God. We're going to get to the end, all right.
That's awesome.
Well,
he was a sailor. When I said the Viking, I said, I want a benign, benevolent brand symbol like the Michelin Tire Man or the Pillsbury Doughboy or the Angelus Marshmallow Man. In Canada, we had Angelus marshmallows, and he was a top with a little star. And the Viking said, okay, and then he mails me the initial renderings, and I opened it up, and he's made the guy a sailor like that. I doubled over, I couldn't believe, I laughed for 10 minutes. And I thought, this is going to be so good. And in the movie, of course, Bill improvises, and he's a sailor, he improvises the line. Yeah, so, Mr. Stay Puffed, we love him. Some people skin here today.
I think that brings us to the end.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. The Ghostbusters.
I had a few questions about life. You got any advice?
Well, I think I really trust your instincts on this. You were there right at the beginning. You've made extraordinary movies in your career so far, and I think you're just beginning. And I think you have the heart, which is the real secret. It's finding these characters, making us love them. And I'm quite sure you're going to do that, and I say trust them and go for it, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Well, I told you I had a surprise. And as you know, this movie that we're about to make is a love letter to 1984, just as today is a love letter to 1984. And in making this movie, we found something kind of extraordinary. We went to Sony and we said, we'd really love to get back into the original dailies from 1984. Do you still have them? And we found them. They were in a mine in Kansas, and we shipped the boxes to Burbank, and we've been going through the footage for reasons I cannot tell you, but along the way we found some really cool stuff, and let's go ahead and roll some of the first piece of footage that we found.
Yes!
To make a full report. These men are consummate snowball artists. They use sense and nerve gases to induce hallucinations. People think they're seeing ghosts. And they call these bozos who conveniently show up to deal with the problem with a fake electronic light show.
You're using nerve gas? The man is a psychopath, Your Honor. It's probably a mixture of gases, no doubt stolen from the army.
We don't steal, Your Honor. If we needed nerve gas, we'd make it ourselves.
Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion. Is this true?
It's a fact, Your Honor. The man has no genitalia.
Oh, wait! Come on! Hey, break it up!
Get him out of here.
Fine. This way, Mr. Peck.
I'll fix you, man. I'm going to fix you. I want to have you over for lunch. Now, what do you need from me? What do you got?
How incredible is that? Those are original dailies. That's the stuff that didn't make the film. Okay, first question. How do you not put the nerve gas joke in? It's amazing. If we wanted nerve gas, we'd make it ourselves. How did that get cut?
I'm a terrible director. It's like yesterday, I went to the screening that hopefully many of you went to, and for the second movie, and I'm sitting in the side just at the beginning, and I'm watching the commercial that we shot for the second movie, and I'm laughing my ass off, and I'm saying, this is great stuff. How is it that you didn't do that? And you know, the secret is that there was great things happening every single day. When you work with Harold, when you work with Bill, with Danny, and everybody else, Rick Moranis. I mean, these are like, extraordinary comedy geniuses that I was talking about this earlier, where suddenly something will come and you can feel it sort of coming through the ether. I always thought my job was to sort of encourage that, to be like a good audience member in the theater or on the stage, and just make them feel comfortable about doing whatever they're going to do. And long before, because we were shooting film, it's not like today with video, it doesn't cost much. It costs a lot every time that thing rolls, and it only goes for about 8 minutes, and then you have to reload, and that takes another 5 or 10 minutes. So footage is important. So I learned to speak really quickly while we were filming. And so as we got to the end, or if they flubbed or whatever, I would encourage, hey, go back to the top, or go back to this line and start, except this time, be much more angry on this one. And I just made stuff up to sort of, because I could see that particularly Bill just needed some kind of impetus to push his improvisational skills sort of in new plays.
Was that the original? Was the original line, "This man has no genitalia," and then you changed it, or was that him riffing on set? Do you remember?
I think the Dick line actually happened early,
Yeah.
and he got tired of saying, and that could have even been the television coverage, because then we worried about things like
that's
that.
right.
So I think that was his. That seemed to be the cleanest way we could say that.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Gozer the Traveler, he will come in one of the pre-chosen forms. During the rectification of the Veldrani, they chose a form from that of a large moving torrent. Then, of course, in the third reconciliation of the last of the Meketrek supplicants, they chose a new form for him, that of a large, giant slore. Many Shubs Zuls knew what it was to be roasted in the depths of the slore that day, I can tell you.
I want 22, take 3, 2 cameras, 2 prints.
Hey!
Common marker. What did you say your name was?
6, 2 cameras, 2 prints.
Okay. Gozer the Traveler, he will come in one of the pre-chosen forms. during the...
Baker, what?
Listen, usually I'm very psychic and I have this terrible feeling that something awful is gonna happen. I'm afraid you're gonna die.
You have nice clavicles. I'll get it. Hello? Thanks, I've got it.
Egon, it's Peter. I've got news from the world of Gozer.
What is it, Peter?
Do you remember Nina Barrett, that attractive cellist?
Yes, how is she?
I had to give her 300 cc's authority just to get her to nap. She says she's the gatekeeper. Does that make any sense?
Some. I just met the keymaster. He's here with me now. I think that would be extraordinarily dangerous.
Just keep him there. I'll be there in a while.
Good. Thank you. We have to find Ray. I need him here immediately. Good.
Okay, first I'm going to point something out that I think I may have been the only person who could see because I have this angle on you and no one else does. There's something that I grew up watching my father do on set, and he's done it ever since I can remember, and he does it to this day. And when he's directing an actor and he's at the monitor and he's watching the actor do the performance, if you look at him, he's acting with them. And he's doing the dialogue with them because he's encouraging them. That's what we want as a director. We just want to will them into the performance. And you start to see the lips move, and then the eyes start to move, and pretty soon he's doing the acting. And I was watching you watch Rick. And by the time you got to the word slore, you went slore, like you were actually like doing the words with him. And it was just so wonderful for me to watch that.
I never knew I did that until we started having video crews, you know, to do. I didn't know I did that, and no one was nice enough to tell me. And then I started looking at some of the behind-the-scenes footage. I'm looking at myself. I said, "This guy's nuts. What's he talking about? Why is he moving his lips?"
So one of the best things about those clips is to watch Rick go in and out of character. I mean, isn't that kind of extraordinary? Like, we're so used to seeing him possessed, and it's one of these magical things, and it's something, you know, it's easy to forget that this is an all-star team. Like, you would be lucky to have any one of these actors in a movie, let alone the entire group. And watching Rick go from just being himself and then all of a sudden he's possessed, I was wondering, how did you direct that? What was that like? Did he, the way he's possessed, the way he like brings his like cheeks up and the thing he does with his eyes, is that something you worked on together, or he just showed up day one and was like, oh, I guess that's it?
I'd like to take credit, but I can't. He's a really fine actor who would, I think, in a situation like that, studied himself in a mirror and sort of really worked out a real characterization for it. And you know, he presented a number of things at the beginning, but as I was explaining in the earlier panel, when I finally told him that he was gonna, when he read the script that he was gonna do it, I said, look, we don't really have a character. We just know, look, we talked to John Candy as the guy first, and so you know, Rick is so different than John in terms of what he would have brought, what he brings to the character. He just built it piece by piece in his physicality, in his voice. One of the first things he found was that voice. Do you know that thing that was pretty bad. But it's what he brought, and it was. One other thing I should point out, this is just a tiny, tiny little sliver of the footage. I mean, we only received this about a week ago. I think this last footage was transferred, I think, on Thursday.
We got it yesterday. You know, I should point out for 1 second. Hey, Nate, where are you? Nate, just stand up for a second. Nate is one of the editors of the new film, and he is the reason why we have this footage here today. He cut it together. Thank you. He literally was cutting 3 hours ago back in the office to make sure that we can have it.
these are kind of random, and that's why we don't even have, because, I mean, this is from 35 years, it's 36 years ago, and we don't have all the books and everything that tell you exactly what take and what happened on the take, and so we had to do a lot of digging, and Shirley Kahn also helped, who cut the original film, and in terms of finding just a little bit to try to find something that could be a treat for all of you.
The Chronicles line.
How is it that I didn't use that?
How do you not use the Chronicles line? It's a killer.
I know. Look, we were running really quickly, and we just wanted to make sure the story was going to work. And so we were so thrilled in that February screening that I was talking about. Oh my God, the whole thing is working, and it's funny. And the Marshmallow Man works. Right. You know, it was very easy to lose, but there was 20 other things, you know. So it's getting all that down and not overbearing. It's wonderful in a situation like this.
Right.
But if you put everything in, I think it finally starts to actually crush the whole a little bit.
Right. I don't know. I think there's an audience here for like a 4-hour version of this movie. The Lawrence of Arabia of Ghostbusters movies. All right. Make it 5. All right. Let's go to the next one. I just want to make sure I get the list right. Oh, yeah. Okay. You'll be happy. Let's go to the next one.
28, take 3, 2 cameras, 2 pins.
Action! Please let me. Something's gonna happen in here. I want it to happen to me first.
That's the closet.
They hate this. I like to torture them. They hate this. I love to torture them.
28 apples, 4, 2 cameras, 2 pins.
Indeed.
No, you don't act like a scientist.
They're usually kind of stiff.
You're more like a game show host.
Is this the kitchen in here?
Yes.
Okay. Let's get down to business.
You bet.
I'm curious when each one of them found their character. I find that, you know, when you make a movie, you have this idea in your head. You've already been working on it. And in this case, you've been working on it with 2 writers who were going to end up acting in the movie. So they're figuring out their character along the way. But with them, with Bill and Sigourney, was it day 1? Was it day 5? When did you know? When did you just realize? Oh, they know exactly who these people are.
It was pretty amazing to watch the 2 of them together, really, from the first scene that we shot. They just had this immediate chemistry. I'm so happy we're talking about Sigourney because we never got a chance to talk about her in the last thing.
Oh, you didn't talk about her audition?
Her audition.
Oh,
And I think she came in, and we didn't audition many people. So I had seen her, I think she was in Year of Living Dangerously, and Alien, I think she had already done. And she came in, and she was very smart about the script. And this was a very early draft of the script. And at some point, right away I could see there's a kind of bearing about Sigourney that I kept thinking of her as the Madame Dumont of sort of my particular group of Marx Brothers. And, you know, there's just an intelligence about her and an ability to sort of take the joke, but still maintain being the most mature person in the group. And she suddenly turned to me and she said, you know, I think I should get possessed. I mean, she didn't have the part yet, so she didn't say I should. And she said that Dana should get possessed. And I said, what do you mean? She said, no, I think I should become a dog. And then she climbs on my coffee table, and she goes on all fours, and she starts howling like a coyote, and like a dog, and panting. And then she suddenly very daintily gets back and sits on the couch and says, it would be good. I really think it's necessary for the story. And I said, you know, we didn't know what we were doing in the last act of this movie. We didn't know quite. We knew we had a keymaster and a gatekeeper, whatever that meant, and it was somehow it had to do with those two characters on the same floor, but we didn't know how that was going to consummate literally and be shown on film. And as soon as she left my office, I called up Harold and I said, you know, this actress Sigourney Weaver, by the way, I think she better be Dana Barrett. She's perfect. I think she just talked about being possessed. And don't you think that's a good idea? And we really wrote this whole last sequence with them. And it all came out of that. And that was the good fortune of this movie. All kinds of really smart people came up with really good ideas. And I think we were smart enough to act on it and act on it quickly.
The next clip, this is a scene that I had never seen before. It's not. This is not like other alternate takes. So I have no idea what this is. I'm just hoping you can explain it.
Hello, Marky.
Okay, now so this feels like it's out of one of my indie films, not one of right?
And thus it didn't end up in the movie. I couldn't tell you what it was. We had all this crap around and I was always looking for little transitional pieces. And I think it was probably something, I can't remember, it's 35 years ago.
But how does that device work, Dad?
When you push the yellow button.
All right, fair enough. All right, we got one more, and this one's a killer. You enjoying this?
Yeah!
It's incredible, isn't it? I can't tell you. Having grown up, and usually when I'm in a conversation with somebody, I've seen Ghostbusters many more times than them. This is the first time I'm in a group of people where I'm like, oh, I think you guys have actually seen this movie more times than I have. But anything that you're in love with, I feel like part of making what we call GB20, the next one, is a form of archaeology. You know, and it is oddly, in many ways, an archaeological film. And we are kind of looking through the past, and I've been asking myself all the time, what is it that makes it a Ghostbusters movie? What makes a Ghostbusters ghost a Ghostbusters ghost? And so getting to see this original footage has been extraordinary. It's been like, you know, finding the hidden opening to a pyramid. And anyhow, this next set is particularly fun.
Mr. Smith, quickly, I want that door open now. Stand over there.
Ghostbusters!
I came, I saw, I came again. It's all clear. Got it! Tall, cold one right now. It's all taken care of. Well, what happened? Did you see it? What is it? What a lot of fun. All taken care of. What a blast.
Sir, what you had there was what we refer to as a focused, non-terminal repeating phantasm, or a class 5 full roaming vapor.
Let's talk fees and tortillas, please. Now, we're going to have to ask you for $4,000, which is our standard fee. Now, it's the weekend and it's late. Now, for the entrapment, we're going to have to ask you for $4,000. And we're having a special this week on proton recharging and storage of the Spectre, and that's only going to come to another $1,000.
$5,000? I had no idea it'd be so much. I won't pay it.
Well, that's all right. We can just put it right back in there. Thank
Oh,
you.
we certainly can, Dr. Beckman.
No!
All right. Anything.
Thanks ever so much.
Thank you. Send us a check. All right.
When did he say it? What was the first take he say? We came, we saw, we kicked some ass.
I wish he was here. I can't remember. I think it wasn't the very first time. I think it was something that one actually sounds like we actually wrote that.
Yeah.
And that he was resisting it and was trying everything else, which often would happen. And it was really one of the fascinating things where he would, most actors will start with the lines as written and then sort of keep pushing it. But he always felt free to really go any way, and he often would start way out there and my job was then to sort of bring him back into the center. So it could have gone any way.
Is that how you would say action? Would you go, Ghostbusters, it's so sweet, that's my dad's voice in there. He's yelling at the door to cue them.
It is the Ghostbusters, it's time to get out. It just felt like the right kind of thing to do.
Do you know how far, you can feel their confidence. Do you remember if that was later on in the shoot, earlier on in the shoot? Like they just feel coalesced there.
We shot that in Los Angeles. That's obviously the Biltmore Hotel. But so that was later in the film. But they were this confident. I was talking about how cocky we were for the opening, and it's true. We felt this way. I mean, we had all made some pretty successful movies by then, and we knew that this was kind of an all-star group, all working together, and we were all kind of young. We were all in our 30s, and so I'm sorry.
It's okay, Dad. Oh, there's any more appropriate place for me to take this evening, except to say that I'm the greatest storyteller I know, and I am the luckiest son on earth, and I feel so intimidated to make this film, but I'm making it for all of you guys, but most of all, I'm making it for you. I love you, and thank you again for coming out tonight.
Are you folks excited? Yeah! Are you excited? More excited, but more excited. Give it up for Ray Parker Jr.
Alright, so you guys are expecting a normal concert. We sit there and play 4 or 5 songs and make you wait to play Ghostbusters. How about let's just do it now?
Yeah!
How about that? And let's do it again later for those who get drunk and want to party. I'm gonna take my time.
tease. Y'all ready?
Boston makes me feel good. Boston, make big, big, Boston, make big, big. Boston, make big, big, Boston, make big, big. Boston, make big, big, Boston makes me feel good. Boston, make big, big, Boston makes me feel good. Boston, Do that dance, do that dance. 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 I like the way you move. Y'all got that groove going. I'm feeling it. If there's something strange in your neighborhood, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. If there's something weird and it don't look good, somebody, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. If you're seeing things running through your head, who can you call? Ghostbusters. And the thing sleeping in your bed. Somebody, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! When it comes through your town, unless you just smoke some more, I think about Ghostbusters! I said when it comes through your town, unless you just smoke some more, I think about Ghostbusters! Play that groove. Sorry, guys. Ghostbusters. When you're all alone, pick up that phone and call Ghostbusters. You better know some freaky ghosts, baby. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. All right. If something strange in your neighborhood, somebody who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Something weird, and it don't look good. Tell me who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. If you're seeing things running through your head, somebody who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. An invisible man sleeping in your bed. Ow. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Break it down, y'all. Break it real soft. I'm gonna tell y'all a secret. Only because this is the 35th anniversary of Ghostbusters. Don't y'all tell nobody who didn't come here tonight. All right? Joanne, the secret. You know why I do this kind of stuff? Write these songs, sing the lyrics, play the music, play the guitar. It's really just one reason. It's a secret that I'm going to share with you folks here. This is why I do it. I'm going the wrong way. This is why I do it. He's got a truth. This is the secret to it. I do it because bustin' makes me feel good. Bustin' makes it real good. Let me tell you, bustin' makes me feel good. Bustin' makes me feel good. Bustin' makes it real good. Bustin' makes it feel good. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Bustin' makes me feel good. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. I said, bustin' makes me feel good. Bustin' makes me feel good. If it's something strange in your neighborhood, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. If it's something weird and it don't look good, somebody who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. That's right. Seeing things running through your head, who should you call? Ghostbusters. How about this turn? An invisible man sleeping in your bed. Say it, oh, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Ray Parker Jr.